Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, Visual and Animation Tools in Civil 3D. My name is Mike Racca. I work for the Florida Transportation and the Production Support Office CAD. My role there is CAD Application Support and Development for the FDOT Civil 3D State Kit. Before we get started on today's webinar, Visual and Animation Tools, I just want to make a couple of announcements. If you look at the go-to webinar application tools, you will see an option to download this PDF. When you download the PDF, on the second page, there are a couple of links that you can click on. This is for the FDOT Civil 3D training on YouTube that we now offer. You can either type in the link or you can click on where it says our YouTube channel link. And on that link, you will see that we have some CAD Autodesk General training videos by FDOT that we've provided. We also have some quick clips that we've created that go into brief explanations on how each one of our FDOT specific tools work inside Civil 3D. We also have some Autodesk roadway design and 3D modeling videos that we've provided. And also you will find some links where we post these webinars that we have. When you're on our training YouTube channel, don't forget to click on the subscribe button so that you will receive all of our latest updates on the new content that we've posted. Also, on the third page of the PDF, you will find a link that will bring you to our scheduled Autodesk webinars that we provide, such as this one here. And for our future webinars, you'll see a list in there that will show a description, who's providing that webinar, and a brief description on what that webinar is about. So don't forget to register for upcoming webinars. We usually have about one each week or so. With that being said, back to our session, visual and animation tools that are available in the FDOT Civil 3D State Kit. Just a couple of things I want to point out as far as the software prerequisites for this webinar. Just make sure that you have the current or latest version of the FDOT Civil 3D State Kit installed. Right now we're currently on 2016. And this is just to ensure that you're using the latest FDOT standards and tools that are developed specifically for FDOT roadway modeling and design. And just as user prerequisites are concerned, just have a good understanding of AutoCAD and a basic understanding of AutoCAD Civil 3D. The tools I'm about to show you today, you don't have to be an expert at Civil 3D to use them, but it is good to just kind of understand how Civil 3D works in general. So what tools are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about the geolocation tools first and foremost. Basically, how incredibly easy it is to assign a coordinate system to a drawing. And one of the big benefits of assigning a coordinate system to a drawing is being able to import live high-definition aerial images from Bing Maps or Microsoft Maps that you can now print in your drawings. And this is a capability that has been introduced to Civil 3D since 2015 and up. So you used to be able to import images into your file. They were Google images, and a lot of times you couldn't print them or they had some kind of watermark. Now those restrictions are lifted, and now the images come from Bing. And we'll look at, once you bring those images in, how to capture an area, and we'll look at some image adjustment options as well. Then we'll go into some visibility check tools that allows you to visually inspect your model or your 3D model in design. The few of the tools we're going to look at is the drive tool, which basically lets you pick an object in your drawing, like an alignment or a polyline or a feature line or a survey figure, and put you in a 3D perspective and let you kind of drive down that object or that alignment and just kind of look at your corridor or your 3D model that you've designed. Along with that visibility tool, we're going to look at a couple of other tools known as the line of sight tools. These are on the analyzed ribbon in Civil 3D. The two of them we're going to look at is the point-to-point line of sight tool and the zone of visual influence tool. These tools kind of like let you perform certain tasks, like let's say if you're in a car and you pull up to an intersection and you're looking to the left or right down the road, how far down that road can you see until your view is obstructed by a surface or something. We'll also look at the corridor section editor that's built into Civil 3D. We'll look at how to pick a corridor and look at it in a section view. We'll look at some visualization options. We'll look at multiple views and corridor section editor. We'll also show you how to do some section overrides for certain assemblies or sub-assemblies that are in that particular section, and just show you some tools on how to navigate through station and corridor regions. And then last but not least, we'll take a look at some miscellaneous utilities, such as adding notes to objects. We'll look at the object viewer tool, and one of my favorite is the station tracker tool. We'll also go over some basic tools like how to use the navigation tools in Civil 3D, such as how to pan and zoom your drawing, how to take your drawing and maybe rotate it using the 3D cube or the navigation wheel. Okay? So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to minimize my PowerPoint here. I'm going to bring up the FDOT Civil 3D State Kit by double-clicking the icon on the desktop. And the first tool we're going to talk about is being able to apply a coordinate system to your drawing. And then from there, logging in to Autodesk and bringing up an image in the background. So to do that, once Civil 3D launches, we're going to go over to the FDOT ribbon and we're going to create a new file. In the Create File application, we're going to make sure that we're looking at the right project, right discipline is selected, and for the file group, we're going to go down here, we're going to choose, there we go, Proposed Design. Here we're creating an output file called DSGN RD02. It's going to put it in our roadway folder, and we're using the FDOT master template. But what I want to point out here is what's new in the Create File tool is the option to apply a coordinate system as the file is being created. So this prevents us from having to go into the drawing settings and kind of dig through the dialog boxes and apply a coordinate system there. We can do it from the Create File tool. You simply select none and you have 3 to choose from: FL East, FL North, and FL West. Right now I'm going to go ahead and set it to none. I'm going to show you another way that we've implemented into the State Kit to assign a coordinate system, but I also want to demonstrate what happens once you assign a coordinate system to a drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and say create an open file, and then once that file is created, we're going to click close. Alright, so once we're in a new file, if you look up on top, a lot of times you'll see a geo-reference ribbon up here on top. Sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't, and we've gotten questions as to what makes that toolbar appear or disappear. Well, that's because a coordinate system is not assigned to this file yet. So if we go down here to the command line, one of the shortcuts that we've added is the ability to type in set, and when you type in the word set, FL, you can see that we can choose one of the same coordinate systems that we saw in the Create File application. So here I'm going to choose Set FL East. Once I pick that, I get a dialog box that says I'm changing coordinate systems or I'm applying a coordinate system to my drawing. I'm going to click Yes to accept that. And then watch up on top, you notice the ribbon now changes and we get a geolocation ribbon. And this gives us the option to start attaching images to our drawing. Another thing I want to point out is you may question sometimes, what coordinate system have I assigned to this drawing? What's the easiest way to tell? If you type in map status bar, MAP-STATUS-BAR, press enter, you get 2 options to either hide or show the status bar. I like to type in S for show and turn it on. Once you click that, you'll notice down the bottom of your user interface, you now have a map status option here where it actually shows you what coordinate system you're in. And from here you can click on that down arrow and you can go into library and apply another coordinate system if you need to. But I think this is the easiest way to tell what coordinate system you're in is by typing in that little command map status bar and then just type in the option for show. Okay, so now that we've got a new drawing and we've set a coordinate system, let's go ahead. I'm going to bring an alignment into my file real quick. So I'm going to go to my shortcuts here. I'm going to go to my baseline 817 alignment and just real quickly add a style to it, and we'll add some labels and click OK. And I'm going to double click on the wheel of my mouse to give me a zoom extents, and now we can see our alignment and we've got labels on it. What I want to do is I want to make sure that this alignment is lined up reference-wise to an image. So I'm going to come up here to my image options, and right now it says map is turned off. If I click on the down arrow, I'm going to choose map aerial. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a dialog box. If you're not already signed in, it's going to ask you to sign into your Autodesk account. If you don't have one, you can just choose sign up and it'll take you to your subscription page. And from there, you can create your own login ID and a password. So let me go ahead and type mine in here. And then I'm going to type in my password. Click sign in. Once you sign in, you'll notice on the top right-hand corner that your username will appear, letting you know that you're currently signed into this session of Civil 3D. And also notice that right away, an image is loaded up, an HD image from Bing, and I can see here that I can tell that my alignment goes right down the middle of my roadway, so I must be working in the correct coordinate system because my alignment is lined up with my image. So far everything looks pretty good. So let's take a look at some other options that we have for bringing up our images. On the online map category here, right now we have an aerial image loaded. We can come through here and we can choose map and road. And it basically turns off the image and just kind of gives us an outline of where our roads are at and brings in some road names and some business names. You can also click on the down arrow and you can get a hybrid map, which basically is a mixture of the aerial map and the road map put together. So you'll have the aerial map and then you still have your labels and everything still showing in your map. I think this is a lot easier than having to go online and having to go to Labins or something and find my georeference text file and my image file and having to piece them all together. This is so much more easier, so much more convenient, just logging in and picking the aerial image that I need. So once we get our aerial image on here, how do we go about picking an area that we want to embed in our drawings for printing? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to go over here to the right and you're going to choose where it says capture an area. And there's two options for capturing area. You can either define a window or you can just capture the viewport that you're looking at. So to define a window, I'm just going to pick that option. I'm going to left click once and you can see that you're defining a window. I'm going to left click again and I've now captured an area, but you still see the image showing up on the outside of the window that you defined. So your next step would be to go here to Map Aerial and just say Map Off, and it just shows the area that you've captured. If I want to delete this, I could pick the frame and just click Delete on the keyboard, and I'm going to go over here and turn the Map Aerial back on, and then let's look at the Capture Viewport. So basically what the viewport is if I zoom in here, what I'm seeing on my screen is the viewport. Okay, so if I just say capture viewport, it's going to take a snap of that viewport, and then if I zoom out, you can kind of see that the border still remains. And again, I can come up here and I can choose map off, and just the viewport is captured still. So to do some adjustments to this image, once you have it defined, if you pick on the border, you'll notice that the ribbon changes, and I've got some properties that I can adjust for this image. Like I can choose where it says optional, I can choose the resolution that my image is, from fine, very fine, optimal, and coarse. I can also click on the bar here and choose how far I want it to fade in or out. Maybe I want my my geometry to kind of stand out and the image to kind of fade in the background. You can adjust the contrast and you can adjust the brightness. You can also choose to update the image. Maybe there's this is a drawing that the image has been here for a while, and you want to see if there's maybe a newer image available on the Bing servers. You can choose that option, and this will actually update your background image. Also, when you pick the image, you want to make sure you put it on the correct layer. So if I pick that image there and I go to the Home ribbon and go to my layers, I believe if I type in image, it'll filter down to image attachment layer, and now I've got the image on the correct FDOT standard layer. And like I was saying before, this is now an image that you can print. Before, you could only view these images in a drawing, if you went to print them, it would have a big watermark that would go across them. That is no longer the case. These images are now part of the file. If you pick the image and go into Properties, Civil 3D recognizes this image as a GeoMap image. Okay. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the next tool we're going to look at, and that is going to be the drive tool. So I'm going to close out of this file. Not going to save any changes. All right, I want to make sure that I'm in my correct folder, so I'm going to go to my data folder. A little shortcut here I like to always point out. To keep from having to browse to this folder, I'm just going to left click on it and create a little shortcut here to the left. So that's simply left clicking and dragging to this blue area. It'll create a little handy shortcut. I'm going to go into my roadway folder, and we're going to open up the corridor drive tool. So basically what the drive tool is, it lets us be able to pick an alignment, a polyline, or a survey figure in our drawing, and it puts us in a 3D perspective and allows us to drive down, per se, down our alignment or down our object. And there's a few different ways to get to the drive tool. Let me show you a few different options, because you know in Civil 3D or AutoCAD there's 3 or 4 ways to do anything. If you go to the Analyze tab, under the Design panel, you have the option to pick Drive. When you pick Drive, just kind of follow the prompts at the command line. It asks you to select an alignment or feature line or profile. I could do that by manually left-clicking on the screen, or I can press Enter and pick from a dialog box. I prefer to pick from the dialog box because I know that I'm picking the correct object that I want to look at. So here it says to select the type of object that I want to drive along. If I click on that down arrow, these are the different objects I can pick: alignments, corridor feature lines, survey figures, feature lines, or polylines. I want to pick an alignment, but the alignment that I want to pick the baseline alignment. I don't want to pick the PGL left or the PGL right. Now, the reason why that alignment's not showing up in this list is because there's no profile to it. So that tells me that in order to drive along a path of an alignment, I have to have a profile defined for it. So let me do that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and click Cancel. And under my alignments here, you can see I've got 3 alignments, and I've got this little yellow flag. That's just basically to let me know that these two alignments have profiles assigned. So I need to assign a profile to this one. So I'm going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to click Profiles, create a surface profile. Here's my alignment. I'm going to apply the existing grade surface to that profile. I'm going to add it. Click OK. This is just a notification letting me know that I've created a profile. That looks good, so I'm going to exit out of that. Now you can see I have a yellow flag next to that alignment. So let me go ahead and execute the drive tool again. Press Enter. And now you can see I can pick that baseline alignment and I can pick that profile. Okay. Another way you can get into the drive command real quick is I can come over here and just select the alignment that I want, right click, and I can just choose drive. Okay. Again, press Enter. It says what profile of that alignment do you want to drive along? Well, there's that existing grade profile that I created. So I can click OK. Once you click OK, Civil 3D will then take you into drive mode, and you'll notice up on top that your ribbon changes. So you're now on the drive ribbon. Let's start from the left to the right and just kind of work through what all these settings mean. So here you can change a path. You can switch to different paths while we're in this view. We can define different viewports. You can do a single viewport or 2 horizontal viewports, maybe 1 plan and then 1 in drive view. I'm going to leave it in the viewport that we're at. And this just kind of shows us our current path. Right now we're looking at baseline 817. We're looking at the existing ground profile. Then you have this, what I call, I guess it's like an eye level. You know, what is the eye level that you're sitting to this alignment? So now, right now we're sitting at like 3.5 feet, and we're at a 0 offset left and right to this alignment. So let me kind of change this a little bit. I'm going to go to a higher view, let's say 20 feet, and that puts us at 20 feet above our baseline alignment. Then you can come over here and you can type some type of offset like 10 feet. That puts you 10 feet to the right, or you could do a -10, and that'll put you 10 feet to the left of the alignment. And then, of course, you type in 0 to center yourself back in the middle. And you've got your navigation panel, and these are just your basic operations that allow you to play, and you'll start traveling down the alignment. You can type in your increments. Right now it'll jump every 10 feet as it travels down the alignment. Let me type in 1 feet and hit play, and you'll see it'll start traveling down the alignment. Now it might look a little choppy. I'm not sure how it looks on the webinar viewer, but a lot of times, and most of the times, it's pretty smooth when it goes down this alignment. You can click on this down arrow and you can jump to particular stations that are along the alignment. You can fast forward, go previous, go to start station, go to next station, or go to the end station of that alignment. Then you've got different speeds you can pick, how fast you want to travel down that alignment. Maybe this is some type of residential neighborhood, so maybe I want to go just like 35 miles an hour. You can change what the look of your alignment looks like: 3D, wireframe, conceptual, hidden, realistic. You've got some visualization options in there. You can loop it to where it gets to the end, it goes to the very beginning and starts over again, or you can click reverse and it'll turn you around and go the opposite way. And I'll go ahead and click play on that, and we can see it as it keeps moving along. And I believe if I increase the speed of this in real time, it'll actually increase the speed of my drive. Okay. So we're going to pause it here. Then you've got some a target option. Basically, if you want to set up a target in your screen to look at, to kind of help you visualize where you may be at in your drawing, we can go ahead and go down here and say show target. And it kind of shows this green marker. And you can give the green marker a height. Maybe we want it to represent a person that's 6 feet tall, and maybe we want to offset him maybe 15 feet to the right. Maybe he's walking along the sidewalk or something, and then we can play that. It just kind of gives you a visual cue or something to give you a more perspective of where you're at in this file when you're driving along it. You can't record these in Civil 3D. You could just simply play these and view them, using them for design checks. If you want to record what's on your screen, one of the best viewers that I've seen and that I get recommended to is a viewer called Jing, J-I-N-G, and it's a free screen recording software provided by the same folks that make Camtasia. So if you're already familiar with Camtasia, you know that it's a good software to use, and it should work really well for recording anything that's on your screen, especially when using the Drive tool. To get out of this tool, don't ever just close out of your drawing and come back into it, because if you do that, you might find that your views may be obscured sometimes. Always come up here and click on the close command to take you out of the Drive command. So while we're here, let's go ahead and take a look at a few of our navigation tools. And when I mean navigation tools, I'm talking about tools that we just use on a day-to-day basis, such as being able to pan around in our drawing, zoom around in our drawing, maybe look at our drawing in a 3D view, things like that. If you go up on top on your ribbons, you have a view ribbon. And if you go over to the right, under our viewport tools, we've got options for UCS icon, view cube, and navigation bars. And a lot of times these are turned on by default. But if you click on them, you can see that I can turn that view cube off and on, and there is my navigation bar. And I also have the option to turn off my UCS icon. So you want to make sure that these are turned on if you want to start looking at some of these objects in 3D view. So for the view cube, that's this cube here on the top right-hand corner. If you bring your cursor over corners of it and click, you'll notice that it highlights, and that will reorientate your view accordingly. You can come back over here and click on top view. It'll bring you back to top view. If you want to rotate your view clockwise or counterclockwise, you've got a couple of arrows that will do that. Let me see if I can make this view cube a little bit bigger. So let me go into view cube settings, make it a little bit larger so we can see it on our screen. There we go. You can click on the right arrow, and I rotate it to the right, and click on the left and rotate it to the left. Along with that, you have your navigation bar. That's this bar here. The first tool you have is the navigation wheel. When you click on it one time, a navigation wheel will follow your cursor around. I'm not even left-clicking and dragging anymore. As I move my cursor around, it's following my cursor. To use these tools, just kind of bring your cursor over the wheel and left-click. I'm going to hold down the zoom tool, and if I move my cursor up or down, it lets me zoom in and out. If I go to orbit, hold down my left button and just kind of move my cursor around. That lets me orbit orbit around the screen. And just kind of, some of these are kind of explanatory. You can click on it, that'll center your drawing. You can use the look command, pan up or down. You can click on rewind. That kind of takes you back through the steps if you've been using since you've executed some of these tools. And then to get out of here, I think you just click on this little down arrow and you can click on the close wheel, and that will close the wheel out for you. As far as zooming around in your drawing, the wheel on your mouse, if you hold that down, that lets you pan. If you double click, that's zoom extents. And one little shortcut tool a lot of people don't know about that is if you hold down the control key on your keyboard and hold down on the wheel, that lets you do a real-time pan. So it's kind of like you have like a rubber band that's kind of attached to your drawing and lets you pan around your file. And this is good if you're maybe working with a long corridor. I can release the control key and just hold down that wheel, and it just kind of lets me pan down it. That keeps me having to do this, which can be very frustrating sometimes if you have a pretty large file. Alright, so that's just a few simple tools that I wanted to point out real quick. Let's take a look at some of our line of sight tools. And so I'm going to close out of this file, and I've got a specific file we're going to look at to demonstrate some of our line of sight tools. I'm going to say no to this file for saving it. It's going to open, and I'm going to open up my visibility checks drawing. Okay, so in this file, basically just a small residential neighborhood that's been drawn. It has some parcels in it. It's got a finished grade surface being represented by some contours in here. On the top right hand corner of this map, I've got a house that's been drawn, or the foundation to a house. I've got a car sitting here in an intersection, and down on the far south of this drawing, I've got a tower. So the first tool we're going to look at is the point-to-point or line of sight tool. If I go to the Analyze tab, under my Design panel, under Visibility Checks, I've got point-to-point. So to use this tool, let's say, for example, we're in this car here. Maybe it's a Corvette or something, and we're pulling up to an intersection, and I want to know how far down the right I can see down the intersection before my view gets obstructed by the surface, or how far down the left I can see before my view gets obstructed. So in order to use this tool, we're going to choose point-to-point and just kind of follow the command line. It's a very simple tool to use. It says to select the surface that we want to use our check on. So I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to use my finished grade surface. So click OK. Next it says to specify the height of the eye. Well, like I said, maybe I'm sitting in this car here, and I'm sitting maybe 4 feet above the ground. Maybe we're driving in a Camaro. We all know Camaros are pretty low, so type in 4 feet. And it says to specify the location of the eye. So I'm going to be sitting here on the left-hand side, the driver's side. So I'm going to do a shift right-click and point. I'm going to pick that corner there. Then it says to specify the height of the target that I'm going to be looking for. So maybe I'm looking for somebody that's like maybe 6 feet tall. So I type in 6 feet, press enter, and it wants me to specify the location of that target. So you can see as I move my cursor around, I have this arrow that's following it around. It's coming from my car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of left click, and as you can see, when it's green, that means so far I'm able to see down the road pretty good. Nothing's obstructing my view. I'm still going to left click. So far everything's pretty good. Well, if I notice that as I start to come around here, around this bend, the line goes from green to red. Okay, so that means that around in here is where my view starts to get obstructed. So I can left click, and as I left click, just kind of look at the command line. It kind of gives you some feedback on what you're doing as well. It tells me my X and Y coordinate. It tells me my elevation that I've clicked on, and also tells me the distance from my eye is 171 feet. Okay, so it kind of gives you some live feedback as you're clicking. And I can go to my left here down the road, and I can click, and it kind of tells me so far everything's pretty good. until I get down this road here. My view becomes obstructed. Looks like there may be some kind of berm here, and I can go up this road, and that's kind of as far as I can see down that road. So right now, my the distance I can see, or my line of sight, is pretty good. When I right-click, that ends the command, and it leaves all these arrows behind. This is good if you want to maybe print this out. Also, these are all these arrows are one block. So if you want to go back to delete these after you're done your design check, you can just select one of the arrows, the whole thing is highlighted, and just press delete, and all the arrows are gone. The next thing we're going to look at is the zone of visual influence. So how this tool works is, let's say, for example, we have somebody that lives up here in lot 19, and they've learned that there is going to be a tower constructed down the south end of this neighborhood, and they have some concerns that they might be able to see this ugly tower that's being developed in the neighborhood, and they don't want to be able to see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here, we're going to choose Zone of Visual Influence, and we're going to kind of walk through the same settings. Just kind of read your command line. It says to select the surface that we want to check against. I'm going to press Enter. We're going to use our finished grade. Click OK. It says to specify the location of the object that we want to check. Well, like I said, it was this tower. So I'm going to do a shift right click and use my intersection. I'm going to pick in the middle of that tower. And then it says, okay, well, how tall is that object, or how tall is that tower? I'm going to type in 40 feet. And then it says to specify the radius of the vision extent. Well, like I said, it was this person up here that lived in this house. So I'm going to just kind of come up here, pan a little bit. And I'm going to do a shift right click and pick at the back end corner of this house. And once I do that, I get a hatch patterns that come up that are in different colors. So let's go down here on the bottom, and you'll notice around this tower we have the color green. That basically means anybody that's in this green area down here on the sides around this tower, that the tower is completely visible. Okay. When you see yellow colors, that means that only part of the tower is visible, or it's only partially visible. Okay, so most people in here, they'll only see the tower, not all of it. And then when we have red, that means the tower is not visible at all. Okay, so the further we come up south, look like a lot of these people won't be able to see the tower, and the person that owns this parcel 19 doesn't look like he has anything to worry about. Everything's in red, so he will not be seeing the tower at all at a 45 elevation. Okay, and again, to delete these objects, just like we did the point-to-point line of sight tool, you're going to select one of the hatch patterns, but it didn't pick all the hatch patterns. What I usually do is just kind of right-click and choose Select Similar, and it picks all the hatch patterns in there. And again, just press Delete, and that takes them out of your drawing. Okay, pretty simple tool to use, very simple to set up, but has a lot of great features. All right, so the next thing, let's take a look at the section editor tool. So let me go ahead and close this drawing. So what the section editor tool allows us to do is it allows us to pick a line in our corridor or frequency line and view that frequency line in a section view. And then it allows us to kind of walk through each frequency line along our corridor, do some design checks, make sure that our corridor is built correctly, our assemblies, our sub-assemblies are working like they should. It also allows us to pick some of those assemblies or sub-assemblies and perform some overrides to them as we need to along this corridor. So to get in the section editor, I could pick anywhere in this corridor to bring it up, but a little tip here that I learned is that if I want to look at this station here at 93 plus 00, if I pick that frequency line, it'll start me at 93 plus 00 at that frequency. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. If there's a certain spot you want to look at, instead of having to execute the section editor and browse to it, just pick on the frequency line that you want to start at, and it'll bring you straight to that frequency in the section editor. So once you pick the frequency line, up on top, again, you'll notice that your ribbon will change, and here we have under our Modify Corridor Sections as our section editor. Go ahead and click on it. and it brings us into our section editor mode. And again, you'll notice that the ribbon changes and gives us tools specific to using the section editor. If I click on this top view, it puts me in plan view, and I can use my wheel to kind of pan around and zoom in closer. And you'll see this cyan line going through that frequency line that I chose earlier. And that's letting me know that that's the section that I'm viewing here down in my section view. And to make section view active, you just come down and click in it. So that's how you choose between the two views, is just by left clicking in that view. So up on top, let's kind of start to the left, to the right, and just kind of quickly take a look at some of how these settings work. You've got your inquiry tool that kind of lets you do some measurements between surfaces or subassemblies or alignments that you can use. You have an option to select your baseline or select a different baseline in this section editor, or manually pick it. And then you've got options on how you want to move along each station or frequency line in your corridor. You can go to the first station in your corridor, go to a previous region, so you can look at multiple regions. Remember, each region consists of its own assembly. Okay, so you have the option to browse that way. You can go to previous station. Then you got this filter pull-down menu that lets you filter out how your stations are going to appear when you click in this pull-down menu. So, for example, I can show all baseline stations, which currently that's what I can pick from in here, or I can just choose region stations, and that'll just show me the stations in that region here in this corridor. And if you pick on that line, you'll see that it updates here on the bottom, and that my cyan line jumped towards the bottom. You have the option to look at stations that have had some kind of station override to them, which we'll look at here in a second. I believe we only have one, but I'll show you how to create some other ones. As you click on this arrow to move forward, you'll also notice that the cyan line moves forward and that your section editor down here updates accordingly. You can also specify in plan or profile view what station you want to look at. If you don't want to look directly on top of a frequency line, you can kind of just click and point your drawing and it'll jump to that station. And the next panel here, we've got our corridor edit tools, where we can go into like a parameter editor. And what this will let us do, this will let us perform overrides to some of our subassemblies as far as their parameters are concerned. When you first click on it, it kind of gives you the whole enchilada. It shows you everything all at one time. What I like to do is come up here and click on the up arrow, and this kind of collapses all the categories, cleans it up a little bit, and kind of lets me pick and choose what I want to do an override on. So we're going to do something real simple. Let's say we want to do an override on this 1 to 6 slope for this daylighting here. So this is on my right side, so I'm going to expand the right category. There's my FDOT daylight subassembly. So I'm going to expand that, and there's my slope 6 to 1. So maybe I'll click on there and I'll do like a 2 to 1. Or I can just type in 2, and it updates it 2 to 1. It also puts a check mark in here letting me know that I've just performed an override on this subassembly at this station. What's nice about this, I don't have to exit out of here and then do a corridor regen or an update. I can just come up here and click on Update Corridor, and you'll see it live update where that daylighting to the existing surface has taken place. So let's go ahead and click on that, and you'll see it change. Okay. So this is at station 89 plus 50. If I come down here to where I choose overridden stations and click on that down arrow, you'll now see that I've got a station there, 89 plus 50. So I can click on that, it'll bring me to that station, and I can go back into my perimeter editor. And when you come back in here, you'll notice that there's still a check in there letting me know that some kind of override is occurring. So if I just kind of dial down here a little bit to my FDOT daylight, there's where that override occurs. I can uncheck that. It places it back at a 1 to 6, and then I can choose Update Corridor, and you can see that my corridor goes back to the default settings. Okay, so that's real quickly how you do how you edit a perimeter. You can also change assemblies. In here, I'm not going to do this, but just kind of showing the options. If you're using a particular assembly at this frequency line and you want to switch out with something else, maybe you're trying different design ideas, you can do that from here as well. And you've got some other things like adding regions in here, applying a change to a station range. So I definitely, think you should come through here and take a look at some of these options. One of my favorite is the station tracker. I like to turn this on. When you click on station tracker, I'm going to apply this to all viewports. And what this does is, if you notice, as I move my cursor around in plan view, it just kind of helps me orientate myself and lets me know what I'm looking at in plan view in accordance to the section view. Okay, so it kind of helps me when I'm doing some problem solving, identifying where I'm at, what I'm clicking on in my screen in relation to my plan view, section view, and even profile view. So if I scrolled out here a little bit, you can see that there's my profile view, and I don't know how good you can see it on the GoToWebinar, but you can notice that there's a little cyan line moving left to right as I move my cursor around. So it's showing me where I'm at in relation to my profile view as well. And same thing, if I move my cursor over profile view and move it around, it'll show me where I'm at in relation to my plan view. If I move my cursor up or down, it shows me elevation-wise in relation to my section view. Okay, you don't have to click on it or anything. You just it's just a visual aid. As long as it's activated, you move your cursor around, it will always work for you. As far as view options, if you're here in plan view and I want to maybe kind of concentrate on this, let's say this curb and gutter, and I go to zoom in on it here, and I click on the next button to go to the next station, you notice that my section view goes back to a zoom extents. So to get it to lock in that view where that curb and gutter is at, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and then where it says zoom to extents, I'm going to click on that down arrow, and I'm going to choose zoom to an offset elevation. And what it does is it locks this view here in place, and then as I click up my corridor, you can see that view now holds in place according to the offset and elevation when I defined it. Okay, and then to go back to your extents view for your sections, just go ahead and click on that down arrow, choose zoom to extents, and that puts your cross section back where it needs to be. As far as adjusting some of these, the grid on here, you can come up here to view and edit options, and then you come through here and change the color of your minor and major grid lines and your alignment sliders and profile view colors and things like that. So go ahead and click cancel, and to exit out of this file, just like the drive tool, never come in here and just click file close, because when you go to open up the file, your view might be reorientated to something different, and sometimes a little difficult to get your view back in top plan view. So always try to remember to come up here and click close to take you out of the section editor command. One other tool I want to point out is the ability to add notes to your objects, and this is actually something I just learned here a while back. So I'm just going to kind of give you a quick and dirty example. Let's say, for example, we're going to draw a line in our drawing. Maybe this is a fence line or something, and I want to add some type of note to it, maybe the cost of the fence, or maybe who makes this particular fence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the command notes, N-O-T-E-S. When you type that in, Civil 3 is waiting for you to pick the object that you want to attach notes to. So I'm going to left click on this line and right click, and this brings me up a notes dialog box. And then I can just type in notes. So on the notes tab, this is a fence made by Acme. Okay, type in your note in there. It'll become attached to that object. You can also come over here and make references to external documents if you need to. Just simply click add, browse to that documentation, and it'll attach itself kind of like a hyperlink to this object. So I'm going to go and click OK. I now have a note attached to it. So how do I go back and see that note? Well, if you pick on the line, right click and go to Properties. On the Properties box, on the Extended Data tab, here you have documentation, and here is where your notes is. This is a fence made by Acme. It shows you if you have any reference documents attached to it, and also the option to attach a hyperlink. So if you click on that, you've got the same familiar options that you might be familiar with in Microsoft or Excel on attaching a hyperlink to an object. To get rid of the note, the only way I found to do this is just to click on notes, and in the dialog box you can highlight it, hit backspace, and click OK, and it removes the note from that object. That's about all I have for our visual and animation tools. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my my PowerPoint. If you have any questions, please email me. I've got a link in here for my email address. I also have a QR code down here that you can take a picture with your smartphone, and it instantly adds the information to your contacts. So I hope you enjoyed it, and hope everybody has a great Tuesday.